what we would like to receive and just pop it in, like where you're from. I am Padma Shakti, and I'm so excited to be here to talk with you about awakening your inner teacher. I think we are truly living in an age that all of us are meant to uncover that inner guidance system that's not only guiding and leading us, but also has the power to lead others as well. Do we have any thing that you might be able to share, Carrie, that's in there?
If
Is
I can
that
find
right?
the unmute button. Not at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If something pops up, let me know. I would love to know why you're here. And I know sometimes it can take a little bit to kind of get to the scene. So feel free to type that in. And also any questions. And we'll be putting some links in here as well. And
Okay,
so
we do have a couple.
oh, okay, yeah,
Um,
that'd be awesome.
okay.
Sometimes it's a delayed response, I think,
Yeah,
too.
it just takes a bit of time.
Yeah,
So someone would like to know more about the next steps in the journey,
okay.
and then how yoga can help me be more effective in my work,
Uh,
and how I can be the person I want to be.
uh, those are words I love to hear. This just really touched my heart. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And if anything comes up, Carrie, at an opportune moment, please, feel free to stop me or and share, and or if any questions or something like that too pops up,
Okay.
feel free to stop me with that. Um, so I think, there's a saying that the way you do one thing, is the way you do everything. I've heard this from my teacher like so many times. And it is interesting. Sometimes it can feel like we have so much that we need to work on, or that we have so much that we need to do, or whatever, just because it just seems like everything's just moves so fast, it just moves so fast. And I think if you're on here, or if you study at Rasa Yoga in any capacity whatsoever, there's a part of you that just knows that that there's just something more to you, more for you to offer. And I think anybody too can look out in our world as well and really recognize, as my teacher said, he said, we must all learn to cultivate the weapons of peace on our inner being to maintain shanta, to maintain calm, to be able to maintain and that ability to transcend sorrow, but also to be able to step up as a humanitarian, just as a humanitarian, as an activist in the way that's most appropriate for us. And, from what I've learned from my teacher, and of course, what I teach you guys, is it really is the best we have is our own ability to be able to contribute to the collective vibrational frequency by raising our own vibration, from the denser, more kind of animal realm, we move into a higher frequency. And we'll be looking at what those frequencies are here in just a little bit. But there is no doubt it will support you in your work, and that next step, what is my next step in life for sure. And so we can go on to the next step, please. So, a few other reasons that people have shared is that they're tired of suffering. One time my teacher said, you know what makes a really great yogi? And we were like, what? And he says, somebody that's really like suffered enough, like they're tired of it. They're like, I'm done. And it's like, I'm done with that. And really learning to, if you're really ready to learn what it means to be unmoved or to stay in a place of, the rasa is called shanta, place of shanta, in the face of all the fast, massive movement, and honestly, the collective emotional roller coaster you know, is no doubt. And I mean, Shaylin, knowing the kind of work you do, I would think that you probably experience some of that being around parents, and I'm sure it filters right through to some of the kiddos. And it's probably a pretty important role for you as well to really hold that space for them. It's just so great, that you're there and doing that. Also, how to align your body, your breath, and your mind, because from that place of aligning your body, breath, and mind, my friends, that's where your power comes from. Because when your body, your breath, and your mind can be, think of it like those birds that are on Shaylin's wall, like they fly in sort of a collective movement together, and it's like they just know where they need to go. They just know there's a guidance, there's a GPS that they have when everything is aligned, and we work the same way. We have this guidance whenever we know exactly the direction that we need to head. So Ayurveda yoga is all about relationships. Well, I mean, honestly, guys, life is about relationships, isn't it? It's kind of like many people miss a big part of life just because they don't want to have to deal with making requests of people, dealing with rejection. I mean, I personally don't care
I'm
for
trying to
it.
get this thing to stop, but it's.
And are you trying to get in? I think somebody's trying to get in. I don't, it's like if I don't like dealing with rejection, and if you're in relationships, it's going to happen, and it's not really about you. So like dealing with rejection, dealing with a lot of people that are on emotional roller coasters, people going to extremes, a lot of pseudo spirituality, pseudo self-help, a lot of this stuff, happening out there in the world today. And then the extreme sort of anti-growth, it's sort of instead defense and attack, defense and attack. And instead of a focus on how do we outgrow this, instead it's the plan is defending and attacking, which is why it's so difficult for humanity to break out of war, because there has to come a point eventually where we're like, you know what, we're going to have to stop the defense and attack, and we're going to have to evolve, we're going to have to grow. But we can all do that individually for sure, but it will involve relationships. There's no getting out of it. I've had moments in my life where I thought maybe you just don't need to do that, but no, you do. Internally, another thing I think for most people is that deep down, you have these leadership qualities, and I think everyone is a leader. But you are already maybe serving in a leadership role. If you have a family, you're probably in a leadership role. Um, at work, you could be potentially in a leadership role, and you're really wanting to ensure that you're leading responsibly, that you're really, you're really clear. And how do you do that? Well, at the heart of the science of Master's Path, and why Master's Path, at the very heart of it, is the acknowledgement that we all have a shadow side. There is a dark side there. And as a matter of fact, I went and saw a Pixar movie with my grandson, and this Pixar movie was so good. And in this movie, it was all about, this young woman, and this ancient curse of this beast that they have within them. And and it was only the women, but it was powerful. And this beast sort of had a dark side. Well, every woman in the family, went through this whole ritualistic curse to ritualistic ceremony to sort of put him at bay. Well, this young woman comes along and she's like, no, it's part of who I am, and there's this whole thing around, it's amazing movies today, but this whole thing around, take all of me, I want to accept all of me. And that if I can allow the messy shadow side to show as well, then I will be whole and complete. It's quite beautiful. And so there's that. And with that sort of darker side, the way it often shows up for many of us is through judgment. Because if I suppress, if I go through life and I suppress who that one part of me that is that's the shadow. I mean, the closer you are to the light, the bigger the shadow could be too. And if I go through my life and I suppress that, then the natural thing is judgment. I'm going to judge other people for doing the things that I've chosen not to do. And that begins to lead many leaders, instead of what we want to develop. We want to acknowledge that judgment we might have, and we want to master what's referred to as discernment. Discernment is on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's on the light end of being. Judgment is the shadow side of being. And so discernment is more, I see all things and I allow all things, and I'm willing to accept the messy. And I love you. It's like, I love you. I love this space. I love and I open to it all, the messy, the dark, and the light. And so I think that's a huge thing on these last two pieces here on relationships and leadership. And that's for me, I think, and a lot of people, one of the most powerful skills that that you focus on. All right, next slide, Caroline. Did anybody have any questions or comments or anything that we may want to share here? What you're going to learn today, we're going to take a quick look at how to align your body, breath, and mind. The 5 energetic layers of the body, or the 5 frequencies of the body, and the veils that challenge us. With that, I kind of laugh because, you've got to have a sense of humor about it. And then we'll look at how the Rasa Yoga Masters Path program can help you achieve those goals and how to enter. And I'm super duper excited because we have a new entryway for you that I'll discuss tonight that allows you to kind of get your toe in there, but you can also upgrade early on if you choose to. So I am like really excited about this. So here we go. Let's go on to our next slide. Please feel free to raise your hand, or if you have a question, you can pop anything out or pop something in the chat. It is clear to know what you don't want, and I can pretty much tell you that the master's path and this master's path, then the whole of master's path, may not be really for you if you're kind of like, Padma, I'm kind of cool with the status quo. I'm okay right where I am. I don't need to transform anything. And that, we saw a movie recently. In the movie, the coach said, he used a phrase that I thought was really important, and there's no shame in that. But it will require some willingness to, it's going to require that, I'm not so crazy about the status quo. And, if you're really not interested in self-development or transformation, that may not be something that's going to interest you. Also, you being willing to try new things, to try on new perspectives. My teacher always uses the word teachable. Now, you don't have to be like a 10 on the teachable scale. I was not a 10 on the teachable scale 30 years ago. I can tell you this right now. Not only was I not a 10 on the teachable scale, but I thought I was a 10 on the teachable scale. I thought I was like the best student in the whole world, and I am not joking. It's pretty embarrassing if somebody was able to see, but I did, and I thought that's where I was, but I really started to learn as I got into it, and I hit several choice points. But let me tell you something, guys. I mean, once I got on an active, life is about evolution. Life is about active evolution. Life is about growth and, kind of doing the hard. Like for me, just life became better. It really did. I became happier. It's really hard. Even when I'm thrown a big giant curveball, it's really hard to make me go down. I mean, I'll go down for a little bit and I'll think about kind of like if you're watching, we used to have an MMA fighter that was at our school, and I've seen several of her videos, and man, she's a badass. You couldn't put her down. But she'd be down for a while sometimes, and that ref would be counting and counting and counting. And I can just relate to her so much, because I might be down there and I'm gonna listen for that count and I'm gonna stay there as long as I can. But there comes a point where I'm like, okay, this is done. The count is up, the jig is up, time to get back up. And every time I get back up, I feel so much stronger than I did before. I may have gotten knocked out, I may have gotten knocked down, I may have looked like a total idiot, a total fool. And I've looked like that a few times. Well, maybe more than a few. But the feeling of overcoming your own self and getting in the habit of making that part of your lifestyle, of overcoming your own self, pulling yourself back up, facing if people are kind of making fun of you or whatever, and facing it, it is so deeply satisfying and rewarding. I swear it really is. But now I'm going to tell you, this is me like 30 years later saying this, it is so deeply rewarding, and almost even more rewarding than the quote unquote, what you would call win, because what you gain in the process, you get so strong, your strength and your development, you just become so much stronger. And I feel like life has become more difficult out there, and it gives you a fortitude. I have fortitude that's, I may not be the smartest one in the batch, but I'll tell you, I'll usually have the most fortitude, so makes me think of my very good friend, teacher, and long time ago, I wanted to advertise my studio on the back of my car, but I was a little embarrassed to do it because I'm not the greatest driver in the world. Well, I can be pretty rude when I drive. Let's just put it that way. And not considerate. I'm not the most considerate driver in the world. And he said, it's no problem. He said, you just put on there, I'm a much better yoga teacher than I am a driver. So I've got way more. I may not be the smartest one in the batch, but man, I got fortitude, and I will stay the course, and I will learn all along the way. So that being willing to try new things, I mean, it's just huge. Now, I think I've gone on to the next one. You've got to be willing to put in effort, because transformation is all about patterns. It's all, and man, patterns that are well worn, super familiar, probably stuff that the family did and the family's family did and the family, on and on and on. And it can just feel so right. And it can feel so daunting, to transform those patterns. And, there will be some effort that has to go into the transformation of those patterns. But the beautiful thing about Master's Path is the whole basis of, there's three main tenets, and there's just one I'm going to bring up here. And this main tenet, or this main basis, is that we train to come to the understanding that the concepts of good and bad have no power. That the concepts of good, bad, right, wrong, they're on a very low frequency. They belong in a very, it's kind of more in just the lower realm. And the higher up that we raise our own vibration, our own frequency, you begin to realize that you don't have to live in that tug of war and that shame of, I was bad, or that, okay, I was good thing. And then I love this last one. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, you prefer fewer relationships and just staying on the surface. If this may not be for you, if you're like, you know what, I don't want to know anybody. I don't want to be connected to human beings. you know Again, no shame in that, but there'll be a lot about some connection with other humans. So, all right, next slide. All right, toward the end of this, you'll see specifically about what the offer is, but our promotion right now on our master's path is featuring this new doorway. This is my little salesy part right here, so y'all bear with me. This is our doorway that I'm so excited about. But we're offering 3 big time bonuses that are over $1,000 in value to go with our new program called Vitality Veda. And so Introduction to Mastery is offering those bonuses. So just kind of, stay to the end. Okay. And there I am. I'm about to tell my story. These are kind of cool. All right. So there is no doubt that Ayurveda and yoga and the training literally changed the trajectory of my life. Some of you may be really well established in your life and maybe like, well, but I don't need that much of a change or whatever. But at the time, I thought I was very well established in my life. I had all the things, all the outer things of success. I was in an oil field service deal company at the time. It was we were electronics development company for drilling contractors. And it was quite a successful company and had the house, the tennis courts, the swimming pools, what do you call it? A camp house. What do you call them now? Lake house, house out in the woods, cabin. You can see it's been a while. Had all the things, all the vacations, all the clothes, all the stuff. But man, it was rough. I heard the quality of my life was just really in the lowest frequency possible. To me, being successful was, being awakened at 1 a.m. to solve a problem while I'm being yelled at that your company's costing us millions and millions a day, because of this problem. And that was all what I called success, but I just wasn't making it. And so I found this was in the 80s. I found a class that was on stress management in the 80s at a university in Louisiana. And I attended that. And turns out it was a meditation training, yoga meditation based on 2 things. The teacher himself was a Buddhist, and his kind of friend, helper, another professor was a yoga psychologist who studied the Yoga Sutras. And I just fell into what now I can look back on was just the mother lode of exactly what I needed. I didn't think that it was what I needed, though. I thought it was crazy, weird. I thought that the guy was weird. I thought the whole thing was so insane because it just ran so counter to what everybody else was saying in the 80s. Because I don't know if you remember, but the 80s were extremely, we're materialistic now, but the 80s, I think, is what really kicked it off, I think it kicked it off big that material is more important than humans, in essence is, how all that started. Even so, I thought I was doing the right thing by providing my kids with all of the best, except for attention from me. And, to this day, it's something that I can do everything I can to try and transform that. But I won't have those times back. But what I do have now that I didn't have before is a deep and intimate relationship. I remember somewhat into my training with them, and one thing led to another. I remember standing there one day with my own my own children, and they were I just felt like I was just kind of like had so much anxiety. They didn't call it anxiety back then, but now I realized I had anxiety. I said to them one time the most awful thing. I said, just don't breathe on me, something like that, because they wouldn't stop talking. They were yelling at me. It was just all this stuff. We were standing in the driveway. I was trying to transition to get home because I worked late in the evenings usually. And they just kind of stood there staring at me like, for real? I mean, and I remember right then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be like my grandmother and my mom, my mom's mom. My kids are not going to want to be around me. And that's when I got real serious. And, through it all, I mean, I sacrificed some time spent with them for my training, but by the time they were young adults, I was so glad I did. So glad. Cause I mean, they're 40 and 38 now. I was so glad that I did because I can't even imagine what we would be like now. I doubt very seriously we would have much of anything really. Um, and I even remember at the time thinking that when I have grandchildren, I want to know them. Like right there, after that whole breathing thing, I was like, I don't want to be that person that my grandkids don't want to come around, because my kids never really wanted to go be with my mom or any of that. And I thought, I don't want to be that. And that's when I really dug in and I knew I was going to have to be really serious about change. And then y'all, I'm telling you, for the next 20 years, it was just a lot happened, a lot of change, and transformation. And so here we are today, me talking to you because um, I'm passionate about this. I am so passionate. This is not the easiest career in the world for a person to have. This is not, I mean, to me, this is akin. I used to be a nurse's aide. To me, sometimes I think this can be more challenging than when I was a nurse's assistant in intensive care. It's not the easiest because it's a process for the disease you'll never get. It's a process for the thing, it's about being proactive. And yes, it's about healing what you've already experienced, but it's even more than that. It's just about thriving and being absolutely who you're meant to be, which in the West, we don't have a blueprint for that. But in the East, there's a very clear blueprint for mastery in the material world, for pleasure, loving pleasure and beauty, for mastery of your purpose, for mastery of feeling free in life. We just don't have those very clear goals and plans in the West, but we in the East, I mean, I'm from Southeast Texas. We in the East, we have that. We have those answers, and they're at Rasi Yoga. But first, we've got to really learn about what it is we're really doing. And guys, please feel free to like slow me down at any minute. But we have to really face what's what. And there are 5 main obstacles that yoga psychology teaches us about. And these 5 main obstacles, they really are the path for our growth. Think of them like gateways. You're going to have to go through them all. You're going to have to see where it is. I mean, this is kind of where where the challenge part comes in. These are all constructs, of the ego. And, what I learned from my teacher is just point blank, you know what, Padma, you think there's a whole lot of stories going on, but there's not. There's really one or more of these 5 main obstacles. The first one is referred to as ignorance. What does this mean? It's ignorance of our true self. When we start thinking, the second one is egoism. When we start identifying with our ego, we start identifying with our smaller s self that is not the absolute truth of who we are, then what happens is we find ourselves completely ignoring any potential high level information that is available to us, that is us. And so what is meant by ignorance as the number one primary obstacle, and it's the number one issue behind everything, and it is that inability or ignoring or ignorant to our highest self. Now, this becomes a natural obstacle for us if we were raised in a family system that didn't really acknowledge you and your higher self, or maybe mom, dad, or others. Chances are they were in the same boat. Identification with the ego. And then the second two, they're kind of the dynamic duo of obstacles: attachment and clinging, and then resistance or aversion. It's attachment to pleasure, which is the basis of our addictions and our non-helpful habits, and resistance or aversion to what is, to full on acceptance of what is, and also a resistance of and aversion of what could be. For some of you, we've spoken about this in Best Self Challenge, and you'll hear this over and over in Master's Path, is that many of us, there's a comfort zone, that lies just before really meeting and leaning into and feeling that highest frequency of who we are. That's very real, and that's there. And we must work through that. And then the fifth one is fear of death and clinging to life. And what this obstacle is it's the inability to connect with our highest self that we know is eternal, and we identify with that which is temporal. We tend to identify more, yeah, this body is not forever, it's temporary. But in yoga psychology, we learn there is an aspect of us, the essence of us, or the swabhava of us, that lives eternally in many different frequencies or many different ways. So those are the obstacles, and that's what we'll be working with. Now, yay, levels of awareness. So the obstacles, they affect our vibration. We consist of, we are a certain vibration. We're either a heavy vibration at times, and our vibration can change all the time. We're either kind of heavier and dense, or maybe we're like a roller coaster, or maybe we're pretty fluid in our vibration. The more fluid we can maintain and be consistent with our vibration, which is at the heart of Master's Path, of what we focus on, is maintaining this fluidity of our vibration. Then as you look at this target, you see the red circle. That is what is referred to as our food body, or the material body. And that's a frequency or a level of awareness. Or you can even think of it as a frequency band. It's how aware we are in consciousness. And each line between those levels of awareness or frequencies, they're veils or illusions. They're like the ceiling of resistance, that we bump up against. They're the obstacles that we just discussed. And what we're doing when we train in Master's Path is we're seeking to raise our frequency. Or in other words, we want to pierce those black lines between each level, each realm of awareness. We want to pierce those veils. And your first, for people that are in Master's Path and they decide to stay in a little bit longer, you spend probably your first pretty big bit of time synthesizing the body, the mind, and the breath, so that we can pierce the veils to the material body, the breath body, and the mental, emotional body, because we want to synthesize that and maintain that frequency, because that's what starts to give us access to higher level wisdom, teachings, and such, and allows us to move on. And in our Master's Path, there is a very specific methodology that, you can go as little as you want into it, or you can go as far as you want into it. I'm always going to encourage you to go as far as you can, because that's what I do. I call our master's path the Olympians life training. And I'm like the Olympic coach. So my job is to keep raising the bar and then always support you and guide you on where you choose to go, because it's ultimately always must be your choice. I don't necessarily know better when it comes to your inner, oh, I'm not going to know better when it comes to your inner world. I'm a guide, a coach that constantly says, okay, if you do this, you might get that. Now, how might that work? Or this or that. Okay, next slide. All right. So y'all see that beautiful banyan tree right there, and me next to that banyan tree? That banyan tree stands at the entryway of the ashram, where our lineage, where I go train in India. I can't even remember how old it is. It's like so old. It's really big. It's so big. They have like this giant, thing built up and all around it. I'm actually standing up on a platform, like on that tree. So I love going there. Okay, so next slide. All right, so you can enter Master's Path. There's like 3 main ways. Virupa 1, which is our first level of training, which I am going to be doing some other master classes going in depth on Virupa 1 and Acharya Rupa. Tonight, we're really focused on the introduction to mastery. And Virupa 1 means embodiment of the warrior. Acharya Rupa means the embodiment of knowledge. Virupa 1, that's the part of the program. You can actually enter in through Virupa 1, but and or Acharya Rupa, but I'm featuring Introduction to Mastery tonight. Virupa 1 is it's a few years, about 2 years of training, and Acharya Rupa is more extended. And again, be looking for the upcoming master classes coming probably end of February, March, somewhere, where I'll be going even more in depth in those. Introduction to Mastery. I am super enthusiastic about this. Let me just say to you up front, first of all, you need to register for this. You register for Introduction to Mastery, and there's a ton of cool stuff that I'm putting in here. But you guys, once you register for Introduction to Mastery, you can upgrade to Virupa 1 or Virupa or Acharya Rupa after you've enrolled. And if you go, you know what? And you come to one of those other master classes on Virupa 1, or you come to one of the master classes on Acharya Rupa, or however we do that, you can upgrade from that. So meaning we'll apply whatever tuition you put into it. The reason I say you want to do Introduction to Mastery is because it'll get you in there, get you started, and you won't find yourself thinking, should I, should not, should I, should not. Introduction to Mastery. It includes our amazing program called Vitality Veda. It's a deeper experience into Ayurveda yoga than what you might be used to. There are trainings in that. We've got anatomy, asana, Ayurveda, meditation. There's mentoring. Let me go into what all is in there. There's mentoring in there, and along with that, Cliff's Notes to Ayurveda Yoga is included in that, and 3 breakthrough sessions with me. I can tell you right now, after this window of and this isn't like me being all salesy, y'all. This is just for real, because I even have a wait list on breakthrough sessions with me right now. That once this Introduction to Mastery thing, kind of special promotion is over, I won't be able to keep offering breakthrough sessions. I'm going to do it. These are basically private sessions with me, and they're so useful. I've been doing them easily for probably 20 years now. In the early years, that's all I did was work with people individually. And then I started doing classes from that. And I easily would have 5 to 6 people a day, every day. That's how effective they were. And I had wait list. I have a wait list now. So just so you know, this is pretty dang awesome here. These breakthrough sessions, along with the mentoring and the Cliff Notes to Ayurveda yoga. In Vitality Veda, you'll be studying about 6 hours of anatomy of yoga. There'll be a day of asana immersion, Ayurveda yoga, the Ayurveda workshop, and meditation intensive. We'll go more in depth in that. And if you're concerned at all about like, well, what if the time of the workshop doesn't work with my schedule? For Vitality Veda, the experience into Ayurveda, we have seasonal sessions. And so when you register, we will pop right into mentoring and we'll want to start to look at your schedule right away. And just like if you're working with a college advisor, we'll work with you and support you with your schedule on that. So I wouldn't even let that be like a consideration, you just do it. And let's see if there's anything else I need to share on that. In the chat, we're going to have there's a link to the landing page. Even while we're on here right now, if you want to, I think we have time. Okay. If you want to take a quick look at it, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So with the introduction to mastery, let's say you get in and you start taking Cliff Notes to Ayurveda. We have anatomy is going to be starting very soon. It's not the entire anatomy course. It's about 6 hours of anatomy training, and we'll take a look at what works for your schedule and what systems or what would work really well for you. You would be able to get started right away, and you'd start to be able to get a feel if, would I like to jump into Virupa 1? Would I like to jump into Acharya Rupa? You might make that decision. I mean, you may not, but you might. But no matter what, you'll be incredibly happy that you did this, as far as the benefits.
We have like 4 more minutes. I did put in the Intro to Mastery direct link. I am attempting to paste in the link to the Master's Path catalog, which is also useful if you want to like take a look at the PDF that has like the different Master's Path programs in there. This Intro to Mastery is a new package that is, like Padma said, one of those doorways that you can go in. And I did put a direct link to check out for the Intro to Mastery in the chat as well.
Oh, great.
So, and can I just say that I was gifted some private lessons when as a baby shower gift, when my son, who is now in college, was a baby. And that was really the start of my yoga journey, really. I had started it a little bit before that, but Gracie remembers Liz, but she she gifted me a couple private lessons, which are the same as the breakthrough sessions. And that was really life-changing, honestly, and helped me be a better mom and better, more effective at work and all sorts of things. So it was really, and that was a long time ago. So anyway.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yep. He's in college now.
I know. Thanks so much for sharing that, Carrie. Hey, Gracie, share how you got your first private lesson.
You're coming up on your anniversary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, actually. So, when I first started, I was in love with everything at the studio, right? I wanted to get everything. I wanted, and they announced, win a private lesson with Padma, call the studio in your Irish accent, because it was
in
St.
March.
Patrick's
Yeah,
Day.
it was in March.
And it says, call in in an Irish accent and say top of the morning to you. And I was like, oh my God. I was practicing my accent. So I call and I say that, and then Padma's like, hold on 1 second. And she puts me on speaker. And then later they're like, you won? I'm like, oh my God. So I was just so excited. So I get that one lesson, and then of course the rest is history.
Can we hear it again?
What was that?
Can we hear it?
Yeah.
I haven't practiced.
Gracie,
so.
say top of the morning to you. Say
Yeah.
top of the morning to you.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, and it's like both Gracie and Carrie started that way because I do think it's, it's wildly useful because the key thing that we do in a breakthrough session or in a private session like that is what's really important is that we really focus on applying it to you. Like it needs to dovetail with you and and how you apply it with your life path. It doesn't need to be something that I'm here and then this training's over here. You want it to be really well integrated. And that's one of the main focuses there is, and it helps you to set your goals. You can start out right away going, okay, what are two main things that I really want to bring to the forefront as I'm working on this, two things specifically that I want to work on. And I remember Carrie one time so many years ago, I remember her coming in going, I don't even really know. I was something like, I'm not really sure what we need to talk about or what we need to work on today because we work on physical stuff, we work on yoga psychology, we work on breath. And I was like, don't worry, we'll find something. And I remember her leaving there going, wow, that was so, because
Always
it's
something to work on.
yeah, we've always got something. But anyway, thank you guys all so much for being here. Carrie and Gracie, thank you guys for running this. I really appreciate your presence here. I hope you guys go a big yes. And then also be looking for our upcoming, other master classes that'll be coming up on Awaken Your Inner Teacher for other levels about Master's Path and what we offer there too. But this is really an awesome place to start.